Across the globe this election season, tensions are high. Fears are mounting in the West about Putin's Russia as the war in Ukraine continues to rage. The continued threat of the North Korean dictatorship looms over Asia, as far-right leaders continue to take power across the world. There's no shortage of issues for the American voter to keep at the forefront this midterm season, not least among them pressures from around the globe.
Xi Jinping has become the most powerful leader in China in decades.
Amid growing tensions between Taiwan and China.
If you think that Americans and others will continue to invest in China based on your violating the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia, I think you're making a gigantic mistake.
As some believe America's dominance in the geopolitical sphere is waning, China has been challenging America for the position at the top. Americans are very much still in favor of their country's global supremacy, pushing lawmakers to take an aggressive stance towards their adversary.
And boom, this bill stops that. This bill says, hey, goodbye, go back to China.
At the forefront of this conflict is economic progress.
Policy towards China is playing quite a large role in the U.S. midterms because there's a lot of worries in the United States, both about the Communist Party's influence in America, but also the question over Taiwan.
Nancy Pelosi infamously visited Taiwan in August, causing tensions with China to increase. China announcing live fire exercise only hours after her arrival. It showed a disruption from the traditional American stance of, while not blatantly approving of, being implicit with the One China policy, while still selling surplus weaponry to the Taiwanese military to make a tidy profit. The visit proved to be an effective saber-rattling tactic ahead of the midterms as both parties continued to campaign to reaffirm their commitment to Taiwan.
America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
Not only is foreign policy playing a role, but America's economic position. In a year of reported espionage and supply chain woes, the ongoing struggle for capitalist supremacy has most recently turned to semiconductors. In October of this year, the U.S. Department of Commerce enacted trade regulations aimed at curbing the importation of products from the growing Chinese sector. Concern has also been raised about the Chinese Communist Party's backing of corporations investing in buying American land.
All right, bipartisan pressure is building to crack down on China for buying up American farmland.
According to the Department of Agriculture report, China owns nearly $2 billion worth of acreage in real estate.
But China is not the only overseas concern.
The months-long build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine has turned now into an invasion. Ukraine under attack.
Today marks the 258th day since Russia invaded the Ukraine back in February, and many Americans have been closely following the war ever since.
I'm feeling so bad, but so dangerous, but what we can do, I don't know.
Infrastructure has started to crumble, leaving millions without power and hospitals without water. With winter fast approaching, there are concerns that a Republican-controlled House in the midterms will cause American support to falter to preserve economic gains. While the Biden administration is making moves behind closed doors to push Ukraine towards a peace agreement with the Kremlin, Republicans are planning to put the heat on the White House to stop sending monetary support to the Ukrainians. The progressive bloc of Democratic lawmakers has also called for the Biden administration to reach an agreement, though without the abatement of financial support. As things continue to heat up with China and Ukraine, it seems that the whole world is following their lead.
The COP27 climate summit has begun in Egypt with dire warnings about the state of the planet. Extreme temperatures, wildfires, drought and flooding have all been made worse by the last 8 years being the hottest on record.
As the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference continues in Egypt, messaging from the scientific community has continued to become more urgent. The increasing frequency of catastrophic or abnormal weather events, such as tornadoes and hurricanes, are hitting rural and coastal parts of the country, especially Puerto Rico, which was most recently devastated by Hurricane Fiona this year. Many voters feel helpless as climate change causes the planet to warm towards its 2 degrees centigrade metric of irreversible damage. Climate is a bellwether for the political alignment in America, and support for renewable energy and belief in climate science typically fall along party lines, Pew Research shows.
We are getting dangerously close to the point of no return. And to avoid that dire fate, all G20 countries must accelerate their transition now in these decades. Developed countries must take the lead, but emerging economies are also critical to bending the global emissions curve.
Eyes from around the world are watching America's midterms tonight, as there's no doubt that the repercussions of tonight's election are going to be felt around the world.